Hello, everyone. Nice to see so many of you here already. I am so excited to be here today because I haven't been doing these Vercel community sessions in a while. For those who don't know me, I'm Pauline and I'm joined with Amy. We take care of the customer community team and the customer community platform, which is hosted on community.vercel.com. We do these live sessions to really bring together our customers, our wider community, together in this sync format. So I'm very excited to be here and to see so many of you here already. If you are watching this on X and want to engage with us in the comments, just head over to community.vercel.com. There should be a banner there advertising this session. Just click on sign up now and sign in with your Vercel account to unlock the chat. And yeah, let's see where everyone is calling in from. Nice. I already see some activity in the chat. That's wonderful. Hi, everyone. Amy, over to you.
Just a reminder, if you are going to hang out in the chat, just remember to be respectful, follow our code of conduct. We want to keep doing these. We want it to be a nice space for everyone. So just keep that in mind. And with that out of the way, it is my honor to welcome to the stage our guest today, Christopher Burns, founder of Consent. Welcome, Chris.
Hi.
Hi, Chris. How are you doing today?
Good. Quite a busy day, we could say.
Definitely. We're really excited for this session. People are already asking for cookies in the chat. So.
Oh, you'll have to tell me how it goes because I don't think I actually have a link to it. So that's also a good thing. So if all the criticism is negative, I just can't see it.
Wonderful. Okay, over to you.
Awesome. So hi, everyone. I am the founder and CEO of Consent. And I'm here to speak to you today about developer-first cookie banners and the project that I created called c15t. So let's get started. So the humble cookie banner, is it a necessary evil? Roboto Studios put this video together today, and I just had to stick it in there as a demo, obviously demonstrating opening the cookie banner, the consent model, customizing the consent. But who actually is it for? What parties are involved in creating a successful consent cookie banner rollout? So the problem is that it's a vicious cycle where so many different departments are normally involved in, say, the cookie banner. You have the marketing department who want to roll out new analytical or conversion tools when their cookie banner blocks the tracking and they lose conversion. You have the legal department and the lawyers who obviously are running the GDPR compliance for the company, the CCPA, and all these different kind of privacy laws, making sure that their website is up to scratch. You have the designers and the UX people normally like designing a cookie banner for these more premium websites that are more experience-based. The front-end developers that are obviously implementing them, the back-end engineers that are storing that consent, and obviously the users who are accepting them conditions. So we're kind of in that identity crisis moment where we go, who is the problem? Is every department the problem? And which area should be taking the lead on solutions? What we've seen to this point is a lot of solutions dictated by lawyers. So a lot of like the bigger CMPs out there, like OneTrust is normally quite lawyer basis. Then you get a lot of these small to medium sized cookie banner providers that are normally targeted towards like marketers. But then we get into this really interesting area of developers and how to create great experiences and make them work and plugging it all together. So we know that if you have ever, well, I know from personal experience in my previous startup was putting together the cookie consent solution for that and wanting to make it as fast as possible. And every CMP I looked at, the performance was slow. It was using a use effect hook. It was not really giving you access to the HTML structure and the CSS to customize. It was completely always a moving target in terms of GDPR shows this, Canada shows this. And obviously the frustrations of never feeling like that infrastructure and that code base that we control very well with so many great dev tools really ever got to that CMP structure and systems. And obviously the time sink of trying to make them all work. So I said, enough is enough. When I closed down my previous startup, I looked through all of the different areas of things that we worked on, and I really saw a massive pain point in the consent management, and really it never felt quite right in terms of a developer and building with developer tools. So I set out building a prototype, and I took on the burden. I love this image, this point scale of like syphilis, pushing the bar up the hill and creating a great cookie banner. So I set out to, yes, build a cookie banner, but I also set out to build a CMP. And a CMP is a really interesting term that is actually for the category. But what does it mean? So a CMP is a consent management platform. So when you search online, you see so many different opinions on what is compliant, what is not compliant. Do you need to send the data to a backend? Do you need to store the data? Or can I just do it all on the front end? So we set out to solve both ends of the line. We set out to create the best React Next.js cookie banners, and also create a open source CMP where it would store the consent to a database. You'll be able to pull the analytics and the data, and also going forward, storing things like legal documents and privacy policies and terms and conditions. Obviously, CMPs do a lot more than that, but really just in this context to brand new people who have probably never heard of a CMP, of a consent management platform, it is the back-end framework to them front-end cookie components. So that brings us on to what we actually built, and that is c15t. So now I'm going to do a bit of a demo and a bit of a feature walkthrough of c15t, so everyone can really get to see what we built and how it is built. So let me just change my screen. I think I have to stop sharing and then reshare. It's a bit annoying, but let me know. Okay, there we go. So this is c15t's website. And as you can see, we call ourselves the developer first cookie banner. And the implementation looks as simple as that. But before we actually get to like demoing and showing an implementation, I just wanted to run through some of the features and the functionality of c15t. So we believed in creating a cookie banner that could really easily be customized. If that is just changing the button color or completely changing how it looks, we wanted to really give you the tools to do that. We also built in things like I18N. So there's so many interesting things that I think about and we think about as a company is, say if I go to France, something I do, or Europe quite often, and the website is in French, then the cookie banner should be in French too. Or if it then detects that I'm in France, but my browser is in English, a lot of I18N libraries will automatically swap the website to English. But what we've seen as well is a lot of these cookie consent solutions don't do that. So also having that deep ingrained I18 support, I18N support is really, really cool. But one of the biggest features that hands down is so important is geolocation. And what geolocation means is if you're in, say, Europe, you will see a cookie banner. You'll be challenged to show the consent gateway before obviously sending marketing consents. But then if you're in the US, where there is no consent law, you won't be showed a cookie banner. And one of the reasons this is really important is it shows only when it's necessary to increase them conversions, but also in places like California, a bad cookie consent solution could get your company sued for being misconfigured. So really, we should only be showing the cookie banner when they need to see it. So that is what the geolocation is for. And then the other really important thing here is obviously we're talking about Next.js here, but we also wrote C15t's core to be completely headless. So while we don't have components in Svelte or Vue or Angular or even Solid yet, it's definitely something that we would be happy to work with community on. Because we wanted to make sure this this open source TypeScript solution is completely compatible. So we just wanted to, I just wanted to also show some styling. So you can see that on C15T, the cookie banner looks like this, and it's as simple as obviously giving consent. But then on places like, let me share another tab. I wish there was a better tab sharing in Dia is what I'm currently using. Then when we look at people like Roboto Studios, we can see that they've completely customized the looks. They've unrounded the corners. They've changed the color system to make it completely match their brand. And just for the fun of it, I love to show this. But then I have my own personal website as well, where I just thought I'd have some fun and just show the cookie banners can be however we make them. If that's light mode, dark mode, customizing the options, it should suit your brand. So let's actually go on to actually implementing a C15T cookie banner into your application. So we're just going to now open a cursor. And what we can see is inside this Next.js app, it's just a really, really simple, I just created it a moment ago, a bog standard, as we would say in the UK, Next.js app. When I open another tab, I won't do it just because I will, just so we can see that it is exactly as we say. It is completely plain. So this is what everyone's used to. And then now let's actually implement the solution, C15T. So we know that documentation is so important to integrating a consent management solution. We believe creating the best-in-class tools. So one of the things that we did and we've spent a lot of time on is building out a CLI that allows you to go from 0 to 1 in as fast as possible. So without even looking at the documentation And in literally any Next.js app, you can run not only Next.js app, React app, or even I think like Vue apps, and it will give you the standard c15t code. You would run at c15t/CLI. Hopefully that this is big enough for everyone. And then we can just make this a bit bigger. And then it needs to install the client. Just going to take a sip of water while it's doing that. Why is it so slow? Probably because we're streaming right now. Here we go. So c15t is very configurable, and we'll come on to that in a moment. But like we said, to be completely compliant with things like GDPR, you need to store that consent in a remote database. And what we do is we obviously have a hosted solution called consent.io. But we also have the option to store the consent in the browser, so you don't need a backend. We also have the ability to run your own c15t backend. So install the backend package, hook it to your Next.js app, hook it up to a database. But also, say if you're already using a CMP and you want to get all the performance benefits from c15t, but that you don't get them from your current CMP, then we built a custom implementation wrapper where you can then send that consent data to a third-party provider. So for this demo, we're just going to go hosted using consent.io. So one of the quick questions obviously asks is if we have a consent.io account. We do. We don't need to open the browser. So for this demo now, we're just going to quickly pull up our dashboard. So the consent dashboard. Let me swap tabs. So here we go. So this is the consent dashboard. And we're just going to create a new instance for hosting the backend of c15t in the cloud. Like we said, you can host it on your own. You can literally host it inside your Next.js app as a root, or what we think is much easier for us to manage the infrastructure, the scaling, and just let you get out of the way. So we're just going to call it Vercel community. We're also going to pick the region. Sometimes we might be more biased to say something like Ireland. And we're just going to create the region. And then what is this doing in the background? It's spinning up a database, an API, completely isolated. So every single c15t instance that consent hosts is completely isolated and exactly the same schema as the public hosting it yourself. So it's very interoperable. Sorry, we always wanted to make sure that we built it in a way that we didn't feel like we was adding extra logic that weren't necessarily core to anybody being able to host this CMP themselves. So we can then copy the instance URL, and then just going back to now the code. We're almost done. And we then post in the instance. Then we have a choice to store it as a backend URL in the environmental file. Some people may want to. We recommend it, but some people may not want to. We then also offer the ability to rewrite the c15t requests through a proxy. So making sure that, say, if a cookie banner, if a blocker tries to block the requests, it will always pass through. So for this demo, like, we're just going to click yes. And then this is the exciting part, is we can see that what it's then done is added the rewrite automatically to your Next.js config. It's added a .local and a .env. But what it's also done is it's added all the necessary config and React components to your Next.js app. And literally, then all we have to do is install the new dependency. That's c15t next. Then once it's done, it also asks if we want to start it on GitHub. Yes, we would want to, but I've already done it. And then that is done. So now when we open, let's just restart the the Next.js instance. And now when we go back to the app, sorry for the slow screen sharing in the browser. Let me just find my tab. Here we go. So now we can see that it's showing the cookie banner, and I can customize it, and I can obviously show marketing, show consent, and then it's literally done. It's that simple. The CLI has already been tested with loads of like different configurations. We're actually adding app support and backwards compatibility to Next.js 13 currently. And yeah, I guess the really last thing we can show on consent, so let's re-show this, is now when we go to here, we can see that I clicked marketing. So I can see that I accepted the marketing and necessary. Our dashboard is really early, and we're working on it quite a lot right now. We're really excited to get more feedback, but we wanted to give them really basic analytics straight away. So now let's go back to the slides and finish up now that we've done the demo. And now will be the last time we switch away and tabs. So here we go. So I love this slide, because when we built c15t and we showed it off to the community, I messaged Guillermo and he asked this, nothing more, nothing less, in a Twitter DM. How big is the bundle? And this was a really interesting question that led us down a massive rabbit hole of performance and optimization. And I'm really excited that we actually got some statistics and ran some benchmarks to work that out. But first, I quickly wanted to show, obviously, them statistics. So we can see that c15t renders the cookie banner in 110 milliseconds, almost 100 milliseconds faster than the closest CMP. You also notice that we use a bundle strategy. So because that cookie banner is bundled directly into your React app, that's what makes it so much fast. You notice it also has zero network impact. So there's no third-party scripts being called. Our cookie banner also takes up 12.5% of the viewage. And you can see that it really does not affect the FCP and the LCP, load. And these were going right back to the first slide, was one of the most important things is making a cookie banner that was performant, that had geolocation in, that was just as legal, with the best tools out there. So how did we actually achieve that? Was that we built c15t to be very modular by default. Sometimes it feels like we're in a bit like a package hell with tons of different packages, but what it allows is a really configuratable setup. So like we said, we have the c15t Next.js app if you're using Next, but say if you're using like just standard Create React app or Veep, then you use c15t React. But the biggest thing that you get from using the Next.js package is React server components and server-side rendering. So what does that mean? It means that the cookie banner will detect if it needs to show or not server-side without even going to the client. So how we achieved them incredibly fast scores is because we're using things like server-side rendering, geolocation, and some really cool code to get it done. So that's obviously the front end package of c15t Next.js, and you can see obviously it has bundled in with it React and c15t. Then we also have the backend package. So this is where you store things like obviously the database, the API, the translations. So like we said before, one of the key goals of c15t is making it as fast as possible. So adding more and more translations in would increase that bundle size in the client because you're adding obviously English, German, French. So we store all of the translations server side and then send them to the client to keep that core client really, really small. Then obviously we have CLI that we quickly demoed, and we have some dev tools that we're working on that definitely need more work, very early alpha right now. So that's c15t. And like we've been speaking about going through this, we know that not everybody wants to self-host their own database, their own API, the infrastructure. So that's where we built consent. Think of it like Vercel to Next.js. It's c15t to consent. And you can have unlimited hosted instances, that region support, the consent observability, and many more features coming soon in our roadmap. So it's as simple as connecting that front end library to consents and c15t's hosted backend. So what does this mean in the end for everybody? It means that developers now have a solution that is built for them with superior DX, that eliminates the headaches. I really like what Roboto Studios founder said was infrastructure we can build on, not a widget we had to work around. Legal teams obviously get a solution that passes things like GDPR. The marketing teams get things like Google Tag Manager built in, so it doesn't necessarily slow down their Next.js website whilst also being able to add other scripts. And obviously users get a really fast, non-intrusive cookie banner by default that genuinely respects their privacy choices. So that is it. And I guess it's time for questions. You can follow me on Twitter, Burn Chris, pretty much everywhere, Burn Chris. Consent is consent.io, and X is consent.io as well. I really should have put get started today, NPX at c15t /CLI, but that is for the next pitch. well, not pitch, but a workshop. It's not even a workshop either. Community.
Well, now
Like-
everyone can do it, so don't worry about that, Chris. Amazing session. We had a lot of chatter in the chat. So we will. I'll start off with a question that we had early on. Best Codes asked, I have a question. What is the CLI written in? Because it looks very nice. So that's a quick one for you.
Yeah, the CLI, I'm actually a perfectionist and I really code too many things myself. Like the presentation that we just used, demoed, was a custom Next.js website. So the CLI as well is a lot of custom stuff, but it's majority wrapped using I forgot what it is off the top of my head. I can find it quickly. It's a smaller library, but yeah, I can't actually remember off the top of my head. Just give me 1 second. We can find it in less than 2 seconds now. It is Clack. That's it. Clack prompts is the default UI rendering that I use, and then built in a lot of like custom things for rendering, things like Figlet to do the like cool C15t and all the colors. And yeah, I really care about them small details when coding something.
Yeah, it's the extra little polish that makes it so nice to use.
100%.
Another question we had is, can I see anywhere, is there a list of users that have given consent? So how easy is that to find?
Yes, this is something that we're building into c15t's dashboard. That's consent as we speak. We're also obviously going to be building in more observability tools for things like right to be forgotten and seeing what people have consented. But we only released our dashboard consent about 2 months ago. So we are still really, really early, but working really hard on making it great.
Great, fantastic. So another question that we got, I'll just read the whole comment. It seems like Chris and the team have thought of it all. Congrats. I would love to hear about their development process. How did they decide on core features and roadmap, etc.? Especially because it's such a big topic.
Yeah, 100%. And this isn't my first stop. This is actually my second. And I think something that's really important is right now C15T does more no's than it does yeses compared to when you look at all the big CMPs out there, like OneTrust, for example. But what we really care about in our DNA is the developer experience. And we believe, obviously, in time, we will catch up with them things with some different takes on some things. And when it comes to prioritizing roadmap, a lot of that comes from communicating directly with the agencies that we're speaking with daily, users, GitHub issues, GitHub comments, our Discord. Really, it's listening to as much feedback as possible because obviously, like I said in the presentation, I built consent and C15T out of a frustration of my own, out of my first startup. But now, obviously, as we build forward, it's as important to listen to everybody and their feedback along the way.
Feedback is so important. And we're especially in this area where it's so confusing. Like you have to be
Yes.
a legal expert to understand some of these things.
Yes. And this
So,
is, sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, this is something I feel really passionate about is that developers, whenever you read places like Reddit or forums, developers obviously give so many different opinions. And you have to question, is that naivety or is that factual based upon their previous experience? Have they been burned? And I've seen pretty much everything. But one of the most important, like high level goals of consent is to show developers that they need to pick a CMP just like they pick an auth provider or a database provider for their apps.
It's guys, we had a similar question in the chat, so maybe you can help answer this one, knowing much more about the legal side than I do. They wrote in all the implementations I've seen of c15t, no one has listed the cookies in use and their functions. They only mention the types of cookies on the site, such as strictly necessary. Isn't this a requirement, though?
Okay, and this is a really good point, and I'm happy someone brought it up, because like we said at the beginning, we do more no's than yeses. So cookie banners do come in multiple forms of compliance levels, and what you're normally talking about there is things like a vendor list, and it normally also surrounds what we call the TCF IAB 2.2 standard. So how do you know a TCF IAB 2.2 standard cookie banner versus not? It's normally when you go on a website and you see, oh, we share this with 30 providers and has a list of all the cookies. This is something that we're working really hard towards, but obviously we've not got there yet.
Great. Thank you for answering that, Chris. Just a reminder to everyone who's watching, if you have a question for Chris, drop by community.vercel.com and join our chat. So we have another question here, actually from Jono from Roboto Studio. So hi, it's nice to see you, Jono. So how do you handle things like YouTube and other embeds with cookie banner? Is there a nice way to do it?
Yeah, and I think this is a really interesting point that we're thinking quite a lot about going forward. And we use YouTube, for example. When YouTube's iframe loads, it stores cookies on the browser for faster loading and analytical purposes. But what we are working on is something that we've prototyped internally, is also like shielding of them React components. So things like a video browser, so things like YouTube, it shows, hey, you've not consented to experience cookies yet. So you can either do that or click the link to go directly to YouTube before you can watch this video. But obviously, if they consent to all, then they'll see the video straight away. I think this brings up a really good point on why I believe developers are so important, because so often we get given tasks like implement PostHog or implement Vercel and analytics. So we then put the code in the code base and it then starts working, and then we forget about it and that's our job done. But then it's the legal department or the founders that then have to start tracing all of their vendors, their cookies. So we're thinking about a lot of tools in this area as well to track like that more developer flow and making sure that it's connected together.
Makes a lot of sense.
Definitely. We got another question, and this one is related to feedback. So where can people go to suggest c15t features?
Yes. So you can go c15t.com/Discord, and that will link you to our Discord. You can go to our GitHub, that's c15t/c15t. Or you can email me personally or our chatbot. I feel like I shouldn't say my email address. It's obvious if you've logged into our website what my email address is.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris, for that. Just a reminder, if you are watching on another platform and you have more questions for Chris, join our community. So I have a question, and that is, how does c15t differentiate itself from other CMPs?
Yeah, and I think this is a really important thing to say, that CMPs are a lot like, flavors. We all manage to, achieve the same levels of compliance, but the implementation slightly differ. One of the things that obviously we believe that is so important to our core is open source So c15t is completely open source. You can self-host the front end and back end. And that's the first like full open source CMP on GitHub. But then the second thing is that developer experience. So many CMPs are IIFE scripts, or put this script in your header and then you get no observability into the tool. So that's why we also believe in things like React hooks. We believe consent goes all the way through a technical stack, not just something that's added on at the end. So that's what I would say our biggest differentiator. I'm terrible at some words. Is differentiator. Blech.
That's great. Thank you. I think we have another question in the chat, Amy.
Oh, do we? Okay. Oh, yeah. Does it integrate well and function smoothly with Google Consent Mode?
Okay. So I'm really happy someone also brought up this. This is something that we have just implemented. We currently have it set to, we say unstable, but this is because it's something that we've implemented, but we don't use it ourselves. So we're gathering the feedback that, hey, yep, everything is working fine. But it is as simple as one line of code to get it working. You literally put your GMT ID into the config, and then we will handle loading all the scripts in the optimized way. Next.js won't affect page performance. So yeah, it's currently, yeah, like we said, under like this unsafe flag, because obviously we're testing to make sure that it's working as expected with other users, but we're pretty sure in that implementation.
Nice. I hope that answered your question. So we have another question that's come up. I actually saw this as a tweet on Twitter, on X. Does it work cross browser? So they've written a couple more tweets included there. So I'll just read the whole thing. I mean, we need to have cookies personalized based upon a user profile where you set what you agree upon and whatnot. I never ever want marketing cookies. I just want the most basic version of a cookie possible to run the website. It's not about setup time for me. It's about the user experience, which is always second when we talk about cookie banner. Have any thoughts there?
Yes. So obviously cross-browser, it depends if you're logged in or not. So this is something that we're also thinking a lot about, is in things like applications, storing that consent in databases with things like a user ID. So obviously you can say pass that consent onto other browsers as well. It is something that is quite early, but we're working on it. For example, to give everyone a nice juicy little bit of extra information, is the CMP that we've built isn't just for cookie banner consent. When you sign up for consent.io, we also track your privacy policy and your terms conditions consent as well. So these are things that like we're going to get to talking about, but the consent engine is really flexible. So like in that case, yes, we are attaching a user ID to that consent statement. So we know no matter what device you go on, you've consented.
That's great. Michael, who should be tuning in now to the answer to that. If you have any follow-up questions, definitely send it our way. But yeah, great question. Thanks, Chris.
No problem.
You know, we mentioned earlier, you talked about it being built for Next.js, but there being the possibility of community contributions to build it out for other platforms. How easy is that to do right now? Do you have any docs or recommendations where people should reach out?
Yeah, 100%. So this is actually a really interesting question about maintainability on a official basis. So we've created React components. So obviously you have the headless core, and then we've created React components that sit on top of them. They're very high level, like clerk-like components. So we would love to see them high level clerk-like components for views, felt. And if someone wanted to literally take our CSS sheet, so this is actually the other interesting thing that we didn't get time to talk about, is it's not Tailwind. It's a pure CSS sheet with CSS variables for overriding the styles. So if someone literally wanted to take that CSS sheet and the class structure and port it to Vue, it could be very, very easy. But obviously, we've also built it to be headless. Things like ShadCN is a massive opportunity that we're looking at to say, hey, what about customizing a cookie banner on a deeper level for them unique use cases where brands want a complete customized experience?
I love that modular approach because it does make it more flexible and maintainable going into the future as trends change.
Exactly. And what's really important is we're trying to keep as much of it in the core as possible. And that's took a lot of work to be like, oh, it would be so easy to just put this in the React app. But it's like, no, we need to make sure it's in the core TypeScript app. So even if someone is implementing this in Svelte with their own custom cookie banner, they still get all the same functionality without obviously the view layer.
Great. Thank you, Chris. I just wanted to say a lot of people in the chat are saying your answers are very refreshing and transparent. So thank you so much for that. We have a bit of a technical question that's just come in. How can you reliably track a user's location? Is it all HTTP headers? How is it done without any network overhead?
Okay, so this is actually a really interesting point, and we're spending a lot of time on this. So when you're using the React server components in, say, the Next.js package, it is using headers. So a platform like Vercel will send the users headers on the request. So they'll say if they're in like the UK or the US. So we use that as the first layer. But recently on a trip to the US, I was still getting cookie banners in the US, and we're now working on our second layer of like diagnosis to work out if we need to show you a cookie banner or not. That we'll be speaking about soon in the future. But right now, when it comes to actually showing the cookie banner or not, if you go to cookiebench.com, you will see all the CMPs that we've listed. And obviously, c15t Next.js is number 1, and c15t React is number 2. And when you click them and then go to the network tab, you will see that the React package has one more request than the Next.js package. Is because the React package is rendering on client and then sending a server-side request to say, hey, do I need to show a cookie banner or not? And then returning. When the Next.js package is doing that all internally to work out if it needs to show the component or not.
Nice. Thank you. If you have any more follow-up questions, definitely add them to the chat.
One of my favorite questions is looking into the future. So what's the roadmap vision? What are you planning to add? Maybe AI or analytics?
Yeah. So we have some really big visions on what we want to bring to the market. I'm very hesitant to speak about some of them because obviously companies change, products change. But when we talk about short term and things that I can 100% say we're working towards, is like we said, cookie consent is that first part of the consent system. But we believe things like your terms and conditions, your privacy policy is the next stage. So you create a SaaS app and you write up a terms conditions, or you get one from us. We then almost treat that legal document as a CMS. So we will version control it. We will roll it out to your users. We will say, hey, they've updated this policy. You need to email all your users and create that whole rollout flow for you. So if you wanted to, for example, and say, hey, we added this really big provider, meaning that everybody needs to reconsent. When they next go on that website, they'll say, hey, they have version 1.1 of this document. They need to reconsent. So that is one of the really big next things that we're working on is them legal documents and the legal document rendering. You already see an early component of that system. So the cookie banner is one of our first components. But if you sign up for consent, you'll actually see our privacy policy and like terms condition component in like an alpha state. And then that's like step 2. And then things like AI. I'm very cautious to say about generating AI legal documents because I've seen so many different answers and so many different levels of risk from founders to obviously business people. And it's a question I always love to ask is like, where did you get your policies from? Do you even know what they're saying? And that's another big AI tool that we want to work on is your privacy policy says this, but then your code says you're doing this. And there's a discrepancy in that. So there are a lot of the tools that we want to work on. It's very much developer focused tools, trying to bring compliance to a higher level and really help make the best, fastest performance solutions.
Some exciting stuff cooking. Chris, this is actually all we have time for today. The community is so excited. I feel like you've done a great job really targeting something very specific that developers need. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will definitely share with the rest of the community on how they can reach out to you if they have any questions. Do you have anything else you want to close with?
So obviously we've had a lot of talk about like how to reach out, how to speak to us. So we're just finalizing a t-shirt design. Pauline's seen a sneak look of it. And then people that reach out early and work with us, give us feedback, potentially help implement some stuff. We would be 100% wanting to send out, one of our really cool t-shirts we're working on and other things. So yeah, you can find me everywhere at Burned Chris. You can obviously find consent at consent.io everywhere, and obviously c15t.com or c15 or consent.io. We have a lot of domains and a lot of branding, and we'll leave the reason why for another conversation.
We'll definitely have you back, Chris. Amazing. Thank you so much. Amy, I mean, that was a fantastic session. I feel like firstly, I need a cookie, and then secondly, I need one of these t-shirts.
I love a good t-shirt, but definitely we need to have Chris back because there's a lot more to cover here. People are very excited about this. It's a problem that we've all had to struggle with, and a glimmer of hope here.
Definitely. I'm so excited. I think after this, I'm going to try and set this up for my own website. So yeah, thank you again, everyone, for joining.
Yeah, so happy to have you all here. And we'll see you again next week. We have a session all about the AI Gateway. That's our proxy service that routes model requests to various AI providers. So be sure to tune in next week for that.
Awesome. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone, and we'll see you again next week.